My child, before you tell yourself that nothing is changing, before you decide that I have forgotten your prayers, before you believe that everyone else is moving forward while you remain standing still, stay with me for a little while, because today, I want to show you something that may completely change the way you see this season of your life. My child, I know how waiting feels. I know what it is like to wake up with hope, only to go to sleep wondering, maybe tomorrow. I know the quiet disappointment that comes when another day passes, and nothing seems different. You prayed, you trusted, you waited, yet the answer never arrived the way you expected. So you began asking questions you were almost afraid to speak aloud. Lord, did you hear me? Did I do something wrong? Have I missed your plan? Why does it seem like everyone else is moving while I remain here? My child, if those questions have ever crossed your mind, you are not alone. Many of my children have stood exactly where you are standing now, not because they lacked faith, but because they could not yet see what I was already doing. Please, don't leave yet, because what I am about to tell you is something many people never discover. You have been measuring my work by what you can see, but I have never been limited to what your eyes can understand. Have you ever planted a seed? The day you place it into the ground, nothing looks impressive. The soil appears exactly the same. The field seems unchanged. If someone walked by the next morning, they would probably laugh and say, nothing happened. The second day, still nothing. The seventh day, still only dirt. The 20th day, the ground remains silent. But my child, does the silence mean the seed is dead? No. It means the most important work is happening where human eyes cannot see. Beneath the soil, tiny roots are stretching into the darkness, quietly, patiently, without applause, without recognition, without anyone celebrating their progress. Because roots do not grow for attention, they grow for stability. And my child, before I allow something to grow higher, I almost always allow it to grow deeper. Please think about that for a moment, because perhaps you have been standing above the soil, judging your life by what has not appeared yet, while beneath the surface, I have been growing roots you cannot see, roots of patience, roots of wisdom, roots of humility, roots of endurance, roots that will one day support blessings far greater than you can imagine today. My child, the world celebrates fruit. I prepare roots. The world admires success. I shape character. The world notices promotion. I strengthen the heart that will carry it. Those are very different priorities. And sometimes that difference feels like delay. But delay and preparation are not the same thing. Please stay with me, because this truth has changed countless lives. What looks like nothing may actually be the beginning of everything. My child, there are prayers you have almost stopped praying, dreams you have quietly folded away, hopes you no longer speak about because disappointment has become too familiar. You tell yourself, maybe it just isn't meant for me. You smile when others celebrate. You encourage them sincerely. But later, when you are finally alone, a small voice whispers, when will it be my turn? My child, I have heard that whisper, not once, not twice, every single time, even when no words left your lips, because I listen to the language of your heart. And your heart has never been hidden from me. Please don't rush ahead, because there is something I need you to understand before we continue. You believe your greatest struggle is waiting. But waiting has never been your greatest struggle. Your greatest struggle has been interpreting the waiting. You assumed silence meant absence. You assumed slow meant forgotten. You assumed delay meant denial. But my child, those assumptions have been stealing your peace. Imagine watching a master builder begin constructing a great house. On the first day, you expect walls. Instead, he spends weeks digging, breaking ground, pouring concrete, laying steel. Nothing beautiful, nothing exciting, nothing worthy of photographs. Someone passing by might shake their head and say, "This builder doesn't know what he's doing," but the builder smiles, because he knows something the observer does not. A house that will stand for generations must first survive what no one will ever see, the foundation. My child, many people pray for the house. Very few are willing to endure the foundation. Yet without the foundation, the blessing itself becomes dangerous, because what is built too quickly often collapses just as quickly. My child, could it be that while you have been asking me, "When will you bless me?" I have been lovingly asking, "When will your foundation be ready?" Not because I want to withhold good things from you. Never. I delight in giving good gifts to my children, but love prepares before it promotes. Love strengthens before it entrusts. Love builds before it blesses. Because I care not only about giving you the blessing, I care about helping you keep it. My child, this is why you must not compare your timeline with anyone else's. You can stand in the same garden and still bloom in different seasons. One tree blossoms in early spring. Another bears fruit in late summer. Neither one has failed. They are simply growing according to the wisdom of the one who planted them. And the gardener never confuses his seasons. Neither should you. My child, let me leave you with this thought before we continue. If I seem quiet, do not immediately assume I am absent. If nothing appears to be changing, do not immediately assume nothing is happening. And if your life feels slower than everyone else's, do not assume you have been forgotten, because sometimes the longest seasons of waiting become the strongest seasons of preparation. And what I am preparing inside you today may one day become the very reason you thank me for every prayer that seemed unanswered. Stay with me, because what I want to reveal next may completely change the way you understand every delay you have ever experienced. My child, stay with me, because now I want to reveal something that many people overlook during seasons of waiting. They spend so much time asking, "When will this season end?" that they never stop to ask, "What is this season producing inside me?" Those are two very different questions. One focuses on escape, the other opens the door to transformation. My child, waiting has never been wasted time in my kingdom. It has always been sacred time, time that appears quiet on the outside, yet is filled with invisible work on the inside. Think again about the seed beneath the soil. The roots do not complain because no one can see them. They simply continue growing, day after day, in darkness, in silence, without applause, without certainty of when the first green leaf will finally break through the ground. The seed does not panic because spring has not arrived yet. It trusts the process written into its very nature. My child, what if you learn to trust my process the way the seed trusts the soil? What if you stopped measuring progress only by visible results? What if growth has been happening all along, just not in the place you've been looking? Please don't leave yet, because this may explain why your waiting has lasted longer than you hoped. You have been praying for open doors, and I have been strengthening the person who will walk through them. You have been asking me to remove every obstacle, while I have been teaching you how to stand when obstacles appear. You have been asking for a different season, while I have been shaping a different heart. Do you see the difference? One changes your circumstances, the other changes you. And my child, the second miracle is often greater than the first, because circumstances come and go, but the person you become will remain long after this season has passed. My child, imagine a skilled blacksmith standing beside a blazing fire. He places a piece of ordinary steel into the flames. If the steel could speak, it might cry, Why are you doing this to me? It hurts. Take me out. This fire is destroying me, but the blacksmith knows something the steel does not. The fire is not destroying it. The fire is preparing it. Without heat, there can be no strength. Without pressure, there can be no refinement. Without shaping, there can be no purpose. My child, some of the hardest seasons of your life have felt exactly like that fire. You wondered why everything seemed more difficult, why prayers seemed slower, why doors remained closed, why answers were delayed. You feared I had forgotten you, but I had not stepped away. I was standing beside the fire the entire time, watching carefully, never allowing the heat to exceed what my grace could carry you through, because I was not trying to break you. I was preparing you to carry something heavier than you could have carried before. Please think about that. Would you trust a bridge built without strong foundations? Would you feel safe inside a house that skipped the hardest part of construction? Would you admire a sword that had never passed through fire? Of course not. Then why do you believe your own life should become strong without preparation? My child, preparation is rarely exciting. Most of it happens where no one notices. People celebrate the graduation. Few celebrate the years of studying. People applaud the harvest. Few think about the months spent watering unseen roots. People admire the finished painting. Few appreciate the countless hours the artist spent practicing alone. The world loves finished stories. I often work in unfinished chapters, and perhaps that is why you have struggled, because you keep judging your life from the middle of the story. A chapter of waiting always feels confusing if you believe it is the ending. But my child, it is not the ending. It is preparation for what comes next. Please stay with me, because I want to ask you something. What if I had answered your prayer enough to carry the blessing without losing yourself? Only you and I know the honest answer. There are prayers you once begged me to answer immediately. Looking back now, you can already see why the timing would have hurt you. At the time, you called it disappointment. Today, you call it protection. My child, how many times has that happened already? More than you realize. There were relationships you desperately wanted to keep, opportunities you begged me not to lose, plans you believed were perfect. Yet today, you quietly thank me for closing doors you once cried over, because now you see what you could not see then. Time revealed what emotions could not. My child, that is why trust is so precious. Trust does not require complete understanding. Trust simply says, I do not see everything, but I know the one who does. That is the kind of trust waiting is designed to grow. Not blind faith, but confident faith. Faith built one quiet day at a time, one unanswered prayer at a time, one small step of obedience at a time. Like roots beneath the soil, it grows deeper before it grows higher. My child, there is another reason I sometimes ask my children to wait. Waiting reveals what hurry tries to hide. When everything slows down, you begin to notice what truly matters. You begin to discover whether your hope has been resting in me or only in the outcome you desired. That is not a punishment, it is a gift. Because I never want your faith to depend only on receiving what you asked for. I want your faith to become anchored in knowing who I am. Blessings change. Circumstances change. People change. But I do not. And when your heart learns to rest in someone who never changes, the waiting loses its power to steal your peace. My child, here is the truth many people spend years trying to understand. Waiting is not empty space between prayers and answers. Waiting is where I quietly build the person who will one day be able to carry the answer. So before you ask again, Lord, why is this taking so long? Perhaps ask a different question. Lord, what are you growing in me while I am waiting? because the answer to that question may become one of the greatest blessings of your life. Stay with me, because what I am about to reveal next is the truth that changes everything. You have been asking me to change your circumstances, but what if I have been preparing something far more important than your circumstances all along? My child, stay with me, because now we have arrived at the moment I have been leading your heart toward from the very beginning. If you remember nothing else from this message, remember what I am about to tell you now. For so long, you have been asking me one question: Lord, why are you making me wait? But my child, may I gently ask you another question? What if you have been asking the wrong question all along? Not because your question was foolish, not because I was disappointed in you, but because there was a deeper truth you could not yet see. You assumed the greatest miracle would be the answer you were waiting for, while I have been working on a miracle inside the one who would receive the answer. Please, stay here with me, because this changes everything. You have been asking me to change your circumstances. I have been preparing your heart. That is the difference. That is the reason. That is what you could not see. My child, imagine giving a 12-year-old child the keys to a powerful car. The car itself is not bad. The gift is beautiful. But without preparation, the blessing becomes dangerous. The problem is not the gift. The problem is the timing. Now imagine a loving father saying, "Not yet." Does that father say those words because he wants to punish his child? No. He says them because he loves his child too much to give them something they are not yet ready to carry. My child, how many times have you mistaken my loving "not yet" for no? How many tears have come because you believed my silence meant rejection, when it was actually protection? How many sleepless nights have been filled with fear, simply because you could not yet see what my love was quietly preparing? My child, this is the truth I have wanted to reveal. Delay is not always denial. Very often, delay is discipleship, preparation, protection, growth, love. Please think about this. If I answered every prayer the moment you prayed it, would you truly become the person you are becoming today? Or would you only become someone who receives gifts without ever learning to trust the giver? My child, I care about far more than your destination. I care about the person you become on the journey, because destinations last for moments. Character lasts for a lifetime. My child, imagine a master sculptor standing before an enormous block of marble. To everyone else, it is only stone. Heavy, ordinary, without beauty. But the sculptor already sees something hidden inside. He sees the masterpiece, not because it is already visible, but because he knows what he is creating. Every strike of the hammer, every careful cut of the chisel, looks destructive. If the marble could speak, it might cry, "Why are you breaking me? Why are pieces of me falling away? When will this pain stop?" But the sculptor would quietly answer, "I am not destroying you. I am revealing who you were always meant to become." My child, have you ever considered that some things I removed from your life were never punishments? Some closed doors protected the future you could not yet imagine. Some disappointments saved you from deeper heartbreak. Some delays prevented blessings from arriving before your heart was strong enough to carry them. And some seasons of waiting were quietly shaping a version of you that could never have existed any other way. My child, you have measured this season by everything that has not happened. I have measured it by everything that has changed inside you. Look back for a moment. You are more patient than you once were, more compassionate, more humble, more dependent on me, more willing to listen, less impressed by temporary things, less controlled by the opinions of people. Those changes may not appear on a calendar. but heaven celebrates them, because those are the changes that remain. My child, here is something most people never realize. The blessing you have been praying for has also been waiting for the right season, waiting for the right foundation, waiting for the right version of you. Not a perfect version, not a flawless version, but a prepared version, a heart that will not lose itself after receiving what it once prayed for. Please don't miss this, because this may be the most important sentence of today's message. I was never only preparing your blessing, I was preparing the person who would receive it. That is why your waiting has not been meaningless. That is why your prayers have not been ignored. That is why heaven has seemed so quiet. Not because I was absent, because I was working where your eyes could not reach. My child, there is another reason preparation often feels invisible. The greatest transformations rarely happen in public. Roots grow underground. Babies grow inside the womb. Gold is refined inside the furnace. A foundation is poured beneath the house. The strongest work almost always happens before anyone can see it. Why should your life be different? You have wanted visible progress. I have been creating invisible strength, because one day, visible blessings will rest upon invisible strength. And if the strength is missing, the blessing cannot remain. My child, you have never been standing still. You have been becoming wiser, becoming gentler, becoming stronger, becoming more faithful, becoming more like the person I always knew you could become. And perhaps, years from now, when you look back on this very season, you will not remember it as the season when nothing happened. You will remember it as the season when everything important began. My child, let this truth settle deeply into your heart. What you call delay, I call preparation. Not because I enjoy making you wait, but because I love you too much to give you tomorrow's blessing with yesterday's heart. Stay with me, because there is still one beautiful truth left to discover. In the next part, I want to show you what I have actually been preparing inside you, and why that preparation will one day become one of the greatest gifts I have ever given you. My child, stay with me, because now I want to show you something that perhaps you have never stopped long enough to notice. You have spent so much time looking for what I was preparing for you, that you almost missed what I was preparing inside you. Those are not the same. One is a gift. The other is the person who will carry the gift. And my child, the second has always mattered more to me, because blessings can change your circumstances, but only transformation can change your life. Please stay here for a moment, because if you understand this, you will never look at waiting the same way again. Have you ever watched a potter shape clay? At first, the clay resists. It has no clear form, no beauty, no purpose that anyone else can recognize. Then the potter begins to press, to shape, to smooth. Sometimes he adds water. Sometimes he removes pieces. Sometimes he starts over. If the clay could speak, it might ask, "Why are you changing me? Why can't you leave me the way I am?" But the potter smiles, because he already sees the vessel long before the clay ever does. My child, I have always seen the vessel, even when you only saw the clay. I have always seen who you could become, even when you only saw your weaknesses. I have always seen tomorrow, while you were still grieving yesterday. That is why I have never been discouraged by your unfinished places, because I know they are not the end of your story. They are simply where my hands are still working. My child, think about the person you were 5 years ago, not your circumstances, not your job, not your possessions. You, your heart, your reactions, your priorities. Would you respond to pain the same way today? Would you panic as quickly? Would you give up as easily? Would you depend on me as little as you once did? Probably not. Why? Because waiting has already changed you. quietly, patiently, almost invisibly. You thought nothing was happening, yet your heart has been growing stronger in ways you never measured. Please don't miss this. Growth rarely announces itself. It simply becomes visible one day. Just like sunrise, no one sees the exact moment night becomes morning. Yet suddenly, everything is filled with light. My child, that is how preparation often works. Not through dramatic moments, but through thousands of faithful little moments. One prayer, one act of obedience, one disappointment surrendered, one temptation resisted, one quiet decision to trust me again. None of those moments seem extraordinary by themselves, but together they shape a completely different person, my child. Imagine an eagle teaching its young to fly. There comes a day when the nest no longer feels comfortable. The young bird becomes restless. It wonders why life suddenly feels different, why the place that once felt safe now feels too small. It does not realize. The discomfort is preparation. Because if the nest remained comfortable forever, the eagle would never discover its wings. My child, perhaps the reason this season has felt uncomfortable is not because I have abandoned you. Perhaps I am gently teaching you to use wings you never knew you had. Not wings of self-confidence, but wings of faith. Wings that learn to trust me even when the wind feels uncertain. Because one day, the very thing that frightens you today will become the place where you discover how faithfully I have carried you all along. My child, there is another change I have been making inside you. You have slowly stopped chasing what once consumed you. The approval of everyone, the need to compare yourself, the fear of being left behind, the pressure to prove your worth. You still struggle sometimes, but those things no longer rule your heart the way they once did. Do you know why? Because waiting has been separating what is temporary from what is eternal. You have been learning, sometimes without realizing it, that peace cannot be built upon changing circumstances. Peace must be built upon an unchanging God. That lesson cannot be rushed. It must be lived. My child, many people ask me to remove every storm, but sailors are not prepared by calm seas. They become skilled by learning to navigate the wind. Likewise, I have not been preparing you for a life without difficulties. I have been preparing you to remain steady when difficulties come, because blessings alone cannot sustain you. Character can, faith can, my presence can. Please think about that. Would you rather receive a blessing that lasts for a season, or become a person who remains steady through every season? My child, I desire both for you, but I know the order matters. Character before promotion, wisdom before influence, humility before abundance, roots before fruit, foundation before the house, preparation before fulfillment. That is the rhythm of my kingdom, not because I delight in making you wait, but because I delight in seeing you flourish, and flourishing always begins beneath the surface. My child, there is one final picture I want to leave in your heart before we continue. Imagine an orchestra preparing for a great performance. Long before the audience arrives, the musicians practice. Again and again. They tune their instruments. They repeat difficult passages. They correct small mistakes that no audience will ever notice. From the outside, it seems repetitive, almost boring. But when the curtain finally rises, the audience hears beauty. They applaud the performance. Very few ever think about the months of preparation that made those few moments possible. My child, your life is not different. The season you have called delay, heaven has called rehearsal. Every quiet prayer, every unseen act of faith, every moment you chose to trust me instead of giving up, has been preparing your heart for what is still to come. And when the day finally arrives, others may only see the blessing, but you and I will know the truth. The blessing was beautiful, but the greatest miracle was the person you became while waiting for it. My child, hold on to this truth, because in the final part of this message, I want to show you why no season of waiting is ever wasted, and why one day you may thank me, not only for the blessings I gave you, but for every delay that prepared you to receive them. My child, before this message comes to an end, I want you to take one final breath and look at this season differently, not through the eyes of disappointment, not through the eyes of comparison, not through the fear that you have been forgotten, but through the eyes of preparation, because the season you have called delay may one day become the season you thank me for most. My child, right now you can only see what has not happened, the door that has not opened, the prayer that has not been answered, the opportunity that has not arrived, the promise that still seems far away. And I understand why that hurts. Waiting is difficult when you cannot see the purpose. A road feels endless when you do not know where it leads. A chapter feels confusing when you cannot yet read the next page. But my child, you are reading the middle of a story that I already see in full. You see one moment. I see where it is leading. You see the delay. I see what the delay is protecting. You see the silence. I see what the silence is producing. You see an unfinished chapter. I see the person you are becoming through it. My child, think again about the seed beneath the soil. For a long time, nothing appears. The field looks empty. The farmer has no visible proof that his labor is working. Still, he returns. He waters the ground. He protects the soil. He waits. Why? Because he understands that invisible does not mean inactive. Then one morning, a small green shoot breaks through the earth. It seems sudden to everyone watching, but the farmer knows better. The breakthrough did not begin that morning. It began long before anyone could see it. My child, the same may be true of your life. What others will someday call an overnight blessing, you and I will know was built through months or years of quiet preparation. They may see the open door. You will remember the closed ones. They may see the harvest. You will remember the empty field. They may admire the strength. You will remember the days you felt weak. They may celebrate the outcome. But you will know the deeper miracle was everything I formed inside you before the outcome arrived. My child, do not despise the hidden season. Hidden does not mean forgotten. Hidden does not mean rejected. Hidden does not mean abandoned. Some of my most important work is done in secret. The roots are hidden. The foundation is hidden. The refining fire is hidden from the final shine. The preparation room is hidden from the stage. But without the hidden work, the visible moment could not stand. My child, this is where many people become discouraged. They want visible evidence before they continue trusting. They want proof before they take another step. They want the answer before they surrender the timeline. But faith often grows in the space between the prayer and the proof. It grows when you choose to trust me without seeing the full picture. It grows when you continue watering the soil, even though nothing has appeared. It grows when you say, Lord, I do not understand this season, but I believe you are not wasting it. My child, that is not passive waiting. That is courageous trust. Waiting with me is not doing nothing. It is allowing your roots to deepen. It is allowing your motives to become clearer. It is learning to obey without immediate reward. It is discovering whether you desire only my gifts or whether you also desire me. And that discovery is precious, because when your heart finds its rest in me, the answer no longer controls your peace. You can desire the blessing without being destroyed by the waiting. You can pray with hope without making the outcome your identity. You can move forward faithfully without comparing your timeline to anyone else's. My child, as it is written, He has made everything beautiful in its time. not in your rushed time, not in the time comparison demands, not in the time fear invents, in its time. There is wisdom in my timing that your present emotions cannot always understand. A flower opened too early may be damaged by the cold. Fruit picked too soon cannot offer its full sweetness. A structure used before the foundation settles may begin to crack. Timing is not a minor detail. Timing is part of the gift. My child, you have often prayed only for the thing, but I have also been caring for the timing. You asked for the relationship. I considered whether both hearts were ready. You asked for the opportunity. I considered whether your character could carry the pressure. You asked for greater influence. I considered whether your inner life could remain steady under greater attention. You asked for abundance. I considered whether abundance would deepen your gratitude or slowly replace your dependence on me. My child, these are not punishments. They are the questions love asks before entrusting something precious. Because I do not merely want to place blessings in your hands. I want those blessings to remain blessings after they arrive. I do not want the thing you prayed for to become the thing that pulls you away from me. I do not want success to cost you your peace. I do not want the open door to lead you into a room your heart was never prepared to enter. So sometimes, love says, not yet. And not yet can feel painful, but pain does not make it unloving. My child, let me ask you something. What if the answer came tomorrow? Would you receive it with the same heart you had when you first began praying? No. You have changed. The waiting changed you. Your prayers became deeper. Your priorities became clearer. Your dependence became stronger. You learned what you could survive. You learned what truly mattered. You learned that my presence was still enough on days when the answer was not visible. My child, that person is different from the one who first entered the waiting season. And that difference matters. You thought you were only waiting for the answer, but the answer was also waiting for you to become ready. Not perfect, ready. Ready to receive without worshiping the gift. Ready to carry without becoming proud. Ready to enjoy without forgetting the giver. Ready to steward what you once only knew how to desire. My child, this is why I want you to stop calling this season wasted. Call it training, call it rooting, call it refining, call it foundation, call it preparation. Because the words you use to describe a season shape how you walk through it. When you call it punishment, you resist every lesson. When you call it abandonment, you miss my presence. When you call it wasted time, you overlook the person you are becoming. But when you call it preparation, you begin looking for my work. You begin asking better questions. Not only, when will this end? But who am I becoming while I wait? Not only, why has the door not opened? But what strength will I need when it does? Not only, why has the answer not arrived? But what are you teaching me that I could not have learned any other way? My child, those questions will not make every day easy, but they will give the waiting meaning, and meaning can carry the heart through seasons that answers alone cannot explain. Please stay with me for one final moment, because I do not want you to leave this message with only an idea. I want you to leave with a new prayer. Tonight, instead of asking only, Lord, why is this taking so long? Ask, Lord, what are you preparing inside me? Instead of saying only, open the door, say, prepare me to walk through it wisely. Instead of praying only, give me the blessing, pray, build in me the character to carry it well. My child, that is not giving up on the desire, that is trusting me with the deeper work. And trust renews strength. As it is written, those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength, not those who understand every delay, not those who control every outcome, those who hope in me, my child. Your strength will not always come from seeing progress. Sometimes it will come from remembering my character. I am not careless with your story. I am not late. I am not confused. I have not misplaced your prayer. I have not forgotten what you whispered when no one else was listening. I know the desire. I know the timing. I know the preparation still taking place. And I know the day when the waiting will finally make sense. Until then, do not dig up the seed because it has not sprouted. Do not abandon the foundation because no walls have appeared. Do not walk away from the furnace before the steel has become strong. Do not leave the rehearsal because the curtain has not yet risen. My child, continue. Continue praying. Continue growing. Continue obeying. Continue becoming. Not with frantic striving, with quiet trust. You do not have to force the season to change. You only need to remain open to what I am changing in you. And one day, perhaps sooner than you think, you will look back and understand. You will see why certain doors remained closed, why some prayers took longer, why you had to grow deeper before you could rise higher, why the foundation required so much time. And when that day comes, you may realize that I was never holding your life back. I was holding it together. I was protecting what you could not yet see. I was building strength beneath the surface. I was shaping the heart that would one day carry the answer. My child, what you called delay, I called preparation. What you called silence, I called hidden work. What you called standing still, I called becoming. And what you feared was wasted time may become the very season that made everything ahead possible. Before you go, place one hand over your heart. Think of the area where you have been waiting the longest. Then say quietly, Lord, prepare my heart for what you are preparing for me. Do not rush the words. Let them become your surrender. Let them become your trust. Let them become your answer to this season. And if this message reached you today, you may write, Lord, prepare my heart. Not as a performance, as a prayer. My child, the waiting is not empty. The roots are growing. The foundation is being laid. The steel is becoming stronger. The morning is closer than it appears. And I am still working, even here, even now, especially in the places you cannot yet see.